The dating process is significantly easier if you know absolutely everything about your partner. Manipulative is all hell, but easier. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. The 8th episode of Pluribus is here. It is called Charm Offensive, because that is what's happening in this episode. They are being very, very, very charming. They being the joined, while also being extremely, extremely manipulative and offensive while doing so. I know this is a little bit late. That's what's going to happen with these last 2 episodes, unfortunately, because of the holidays. They're dead smack in the middle of Christmas. Vacations, driving around, moving around. So I'm going to get them to you, but it might take a minute. This episode's interesting in that it deals with both Carol and Zosha as a representative of the joined, putting themselves out there, but also being very guarded and being very calculated in the way that they are approaching matters. Carol's a lot more open because she's just been alone for the last month of her life, and it has just been terrible for her. She needs some type of companionship. They want Carol to sort of be docile, calm, like, yeah, we know we're not going to be able to change you, but at least live within the structure that we have, and maybe we can provide you a little bit of a good life, and you forget about wanting to, quote unquote, fix us. But before we get to that, we pick up with Manusos, who, after his unwillingness to and unwanting to be rescued, it wakes up in the hospital in a bad way. They are telling him, they join telling him that, hey, you have infection. You need help. You need the proper medication, the proper stuff. The difference between him and Carol is because he spent his entire time in that public storage. He didn't ever really got to be around them, understand them, know what it is that they do, and know that they won't harm him. Nor does he care. He just wants to be like, hey, I'm going to grab one of these folks, use him as a hostage, and I'm going to get up out of this hospital. And no one is actually trying to stop him. He should see in this moment that there isn't anybody, while he has somebody at, I think, knife point, none of them are rushing up on him or trying to attack. They're all kind of just like, cool, go ahead and leave. There's an ambulance outside waiting for you. You can take it at any point in time. I don't know what happened or what has happened in his life, and I'm sure we may get that at some point in time, that has left him to be so guarded, even when it doesn't seem like he needs to be. But he gets in the ambulance and he takes off. He's headed straight towards Carol. I kind of feel bad for him because when he gets to Carol, he's very much a point. I don't want to touch them. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to be anywhere around them. He's going to get to Carol, who was sort of his beacon of hope, the one person who was like him that forced him to leave the comfort of his public storage section. He's going to go see her, and then when he gets there, he's going to see that Carol's all booed up with one of the joined. And I don't know what is that's going to do for him. It's going to be interesting to see how two sides of that coin sort of interact. And Carol used to be where he is, but by the time of this episode ends, I feel like she is very domesticated and sort of willing to live in the life that the join can provide her, as long as she gets to keep the version of the join that appears as Zosha. Which leads me to believe that something terrible is going to happen to Zosha and throws Carol out of loop. So we pick up at the end of the last episode, after the Manusos part, where Carol asked all the join to come back. And so they're sitting in her dining room, Zosha being the representative, and Carol, having a conversation. And it's a hard conversation, but it's a conversation that Carol starts and Zosha keeps ending. She's trying to sort of reconnect the bond and the conversation that they used to have back in the day. And so Zosha suggests, hey, let's play a board game. And it's one of the board games that Carol has in a place that only Carol would know, or one of the Carol's friends that used to come over to play that they've joined. So they pick out a game, they start playing it, going back and forth. It's not a fair fight because clearly somebody in that collective knows how to play every game and is a master at it of every game that they have in there. It's like one versus the world, which is a wild game to play. But in this conversation, you can see that there's starting to be a calmness of the join around Carol again. They're starting to sort of reacclimate themselves with her. And you see that they all start sort of convening back and coming back to the city. And after a matter of time, they're all going to be back there, which makes Carol happy. In this weird, awkward kind of first date that Carol and Zosha have, Carol tells Zosha goodbye, and then she thinks like, "Wait a minute, where where do you guys go to sleep? Like, you sleep in a bed?" And Zosha's like, "No, we take wherever is the most comfortable for us. Sometimes in a car, sometimes in a place, but when it's all of us together, we sleep at one facility." And she takes them there, and it's basically like a stadium, like a football stadium or hockey stadium that they've all sort of retrofitted to be all of them lay across an entire ice skating rink or basketball rink, side by side, sleeping. It is weird. It is odd, but they do it because it's a way to put them all in one facility and not use some of their other expenditures like light, heat, and whatnot. If we're all in one place, we don't really even have to cut them on because our body heat is sort of keeping each other warm. So this helps save on those type of items. One question that I've always had is what happened to all the pets? Because there are pets all around. So we sort of get that answered here in that the join don't harm the pets. They kind of let the pets roam free. Once they connected, they kind of just leave them about their beat. However, there are some instances where the pet is so connected to the original host that they sort of just accept that pet and say, all right, well, this pet's with us. We're not going to cause them any harm. We're going to let this pet be happy as well. So we will take it in. So there's a pet roaming around the stadium that Carol sort of pets and gets to befriend a little bit. And it's like, oh, that's a cool thing. Doesn't really add much to the episode, but it does sort of let you know a key piece that somebody probably thought along the line, like, wait a minute. All these folks probably had pets. Cats probably don't give a damn, but dogs are the ones that are like, wait, I want to stay with my owner. Carol's about to head back home, and Zosha asks, like, would you like to stay with us and sleep in this massive thing with us? And Carol originally says no, but then we see a shot of her just laying there in the bed, and it goes to show you that as much as Carol says she doesn't want to be around them, she doesn't want them, she doesn't need them, there is this fighting thing of just, I need to be around people. I need to be around community. I need to be around friendship. I need to be around humans. I need to feel that touch. So she's laying there, even though she's not getting much sleep, feeling awkward, but it does feel there's a level of comfort that exists being in that room with all the joy and laying there side by side. The next morning, Zosha drops Carol back off at home and says she's had a good time. And Carol's like, I had a good time too. It's that weird, awkward thing after a first date where you drop off the other person, like, that was fun. Yeah, it was fun too. It's always the thing, though, in the back of your mind where you have to remember that the join have about 40,000 millions of other people that are part of this conversation too. And it's a bit telling, and it can always sort of be disheartening because you're like, is this coming from them as a collective, or is this coming from at least the join that I'm speaking to right here? You never really quite know. Carol goes back home and then starts writing on her whiteboard. And what it is for her is, as much as she's connecting to Zosha, however much she's connecting to the join, she still has to give herself the line of remembering, hey, these people eat humans. They eat humans. And she underlines it, they eat humans, to sort of check herself out of whatever feeling she's has, because she's getting to the point where she's like, this is comfortable. I like this. I'm feeling peaceful here. Maybe I can just sort of acquiesce all the things that I want to change. And so her writing that on the board is like, nope, stick the course. Stay with what you're doing. They're not going to trick me. And then we sort of start seeing a litany of dates that Zosha and Carol go on. They go hiking. This one's important because there's a moment where Carol sees a train and she talks about how much trains mean to her. And this is the one thing that the join didn't have in their collective. They didn't know that trains meant this much to Carol. And so for the first time, there is clearly something, there are blind spots that sometimes the join don't know everything that they do. Carol's like, wait, you don't know that? And she's like, no, I have no recollection of you liking coins. And then they ask, like, well, why do you like, trains? And they ask, like, well, why do you like trains? And Carol feels a little bit of joy in telling them something that they don't know. It is why the dating process or the courting process with anybody always works, because you're playing tennis, you're playing back and forth. You learn something, I learned something. You learn something about me, I give you something about me. It has been very one-sided up to that point, and Carol kind of felt like, oh, I get to sort of tell you what's going on with me. Then she gets checked back into reality because Carol asked, hey, what do you guys need the trains for? And Zosha's like, food distribution. And has an awkward look on her face because she knows that sort of ruined the moment that they were just sort of having and learning something new from Carol. That kind of just tossed all that away. The next part is they go to get massages. And in this, Carol asks the question of like, do you enjoy this? Because like you're getting a massage from somebody that is a part of your collective. So you in itself are giving yourself a massage. Like, wouldn't you be feeling the pleasure? Like, don't you guys all feel the pleasure at the same time? Um, and Zosha says, no, that's not how it operates. We are well aware of everything. Like we're aware that everybody else is doing something else, but we don't take on the sensory or feeling of everybody all at once because that would just be unbearable for us as a people. Which I think gives Carol a bit of an excitement level. Her goosebumps go up, which they register as the masseuse, which registers back um, to Zosha, but her goosebumps go up because she realized, like, oh, cool. Part of my hesitancy to do anything emotionally or sexually with you is because I didn't want the whole world to know that we were doing it or feeling what we were feeling at the same time. But if I know that you can isolate your pleasure feelings separate from everybody else, that kind of makes me happy. And so that's why her goosebumps come on. It was one of those things where, as a kid, when you flirt your butterflies, it's her butterfly happening. Like, oh, she got a little bit of pit in her stomach and a butterfly. That happened right then and there because she knew, okay, I know something now. I can move on and sort of make my move if I choose to. Carol and I'm going to go to look at planets and at a planetarium, I believe. Looks through a telescope and she learns that their planet or where they come from is over 640 light years away, and realize that they plan to make this one big antenna to sort of go talk to other planets to sort of move and collectively go to the next planet to see what resources they can sort of adopt and adapt there. That makes Carol go back to her whiteboard and write some of the new notes she has down, like, oh, 640 light years away. She's keeping herself honest. This is her way of, anytime she comes home, while she may have a great experience with Zosha and dating her, that's what's happening. She goes back home and writes down, like, nope, still got to keep myself in check. Still got to remember what they do. But what happens is her pen runs out. She then has to go outside and ask them, like, hey, can you guys bring me some pens? They bring her some pens and they relay to her how happy and excited they are that she is writing again. Like, oh my God, are you writing again? Like, are you writing part of your book? Like, what are you doing? And Carol kind of just, cool. Yes, I am. I'm writing again. Thanks. Thanks for the pen. To that point, that Zosha asks, what was your favorite day of writing? Like, do you remember when your favorite day of writing was? And Carol's like, yeah. And Zosha's like, cool, I want to take you back to show you something. And she takes Carol to a diner. And it's the diner that Carol first started writing at. Like the very first time she got the impetus to start writing, she would use the same booth. She would have the same waitress come and top her off. Like everything about this place, it reminds her of the time when she first fell in love with writing and got that groove back and started doing that thing. It's a very sweet date, but my brain immediately was like, this is manipulative as hell. And I didn't quite get why, but it's very manipulative that you can use the sort of the touch points and the sweet points. You have the luxury of using the sweet points and touch points of what a person's memory is and what their sweet spot is, and they can't sort of reciprocate that or even block you out from having that. It gets even grimier though, because this place was burned down. This place was burned down. They rebuilt it and then brought the waitress that was such a big part of Carol's memory, got her from her life where she was in Florida and brought her here just to recreate this sort of theater arts for Carol so her memory could be at one, be damned of what it does to anybody else. And that sets Carol off a bit, understandably so. She goes home to drink. Zosha joins her and has a conversation. And Carol opens up and says, like, I get what you guys are doing. Like you drag somebody from their own life, wherever they were, to here to recreate and backdoor my own sort of happiness, my happy place, all because you're trying to distract me and keep me off the scent of what it is that I'm doing. You guys know that I'm not letting this go. And they're like, yes, we know, Carol. And you're trying to manipulate me and do all of this for that reason. And they come out and say, like, look, we wish you weren't trying to still keep up with this, but we know this is who you are. And it's at that point that Carol relates to Zosha that I like you. And it's quickly she says, you people, but she immediately it is known that I like you people as in Zosha. And they are aware of that. And then she quickly flips it to you people. But Carol is starting to say, like I can't start anything with you guys or with you, Zosha, because what you're doing is unsustainable. Like, pick an apple. Like, what you're doing, you're going to eventually die. And I don't want you also to go away and I'm completely here alone. But like, pick an apple, do something, do things that can make you guys live. It's not that hard, guys. And she's like, because you guys refuse to do this because you guys refuse to pick an apple, I have to do the things to right the wrongs here because I can't have you guys leading me again. So she is very much like, all right, I'm willing to have you guys be a part of my world. I want this and I want you because I like you, but I need you to stick around. Like, I can't have you guys just up and leaving again. Like, that can't happen for me. It's at that point that Zosha goes to kiss her. Carol receives it, pauses for a moment, and then is like, yeah, this is what I want. And they go make love. Now, this is interesting. And this is where it's like, how they got the goosebump note. The goosebump note that happened, the masseuse knew that what Carol wanted from Zosha and that she has an attraction to Zosha. And they even put Zosha in place because she looked like the version of the original pirate. How much of this has been gamesmanship for the Join this whole time? Like, how manipulative have they been from day one to get Carol off of her North Star to be like, nope, we're gonna change you guys up. But in this moment, Carol doesn't care. Carol's like, nope, I'm in it. And she starts making out, making love. She wakes up the next morning and starts writing again. So that was sort of the button that she needed to get pushed to get back into writing. She writes the next chapter of her next book, shows it to Zosha. Zosha's like, this is great. And they're going off and on, like, oh my God, this is great now. Carol asked her earlier, like, could you ever at any point in time stop saying we like this or we doing this or we appreciate this? Can you just once maybe say, I like this? So in this moment, after she reads the book, Zosha's like, no, I loved it. Like, I was great with it. And that is enough to get Carol. That's the last part that Carol sort of needed to kind of completely give herself up. And it seemingly says to forget the idea of, okay, I'm going to just live in the moment and accept this now. It's a part of kind of what humanity does in real time, where there isn't a real difference between a human and a human getting together, knowing that, yes, I'm giving myself up, I'm putting up my life, I'm doing all of this, but I know that at some point in time, something could happen to one of us that takes us out and I could be alone. But that's something that you have to give yourself up to doing. You have to try that. You have to attempt that. That's part of love. It's happening here, except for human and joined. It's fascinating that how close that, like, there's not a real difference outside of the way that they have sort of approached and co-opted all these people. So Carol and Zosha are cohabitating. They're living together. She's staying there. They're cooking dinner together. Everything seems to be fine. Zosha keeps responding in things that she likes, not they like, which is just keeping the ruse going of how this is sort of a new found life for Carol. But then there's a pause. Like, everything seems to be happy. They seems to be smiling. And there's a pause that Zosha gives that says, crap, you're gonna have a visitor. Meaning that Manusos is close and coming that way. Neither of them know what that's going to do for the makeup of what they have. Manusos is going to come in hot. Who knows what this does? Does Carol break out of her cycle, or does she say, nope, this is what I want? You can't mess up the life that I'm sort of having here with this. She's finally is now at peace and at happy. So what does Manussos do now? After sending him videos to basically get him to come out of his comfort zone, he is now going to force her to kind of come out of hers. And what that does is going to be just great television. And Zosha's probably going to have to act as a interpreter between the two of them so that they can understand that, which might make that situation even harder. I have a feeling, and it's just my gut, just because of the way that Vince is, something terrible is going to happen to Zosha that takes her off the board, that sends Carol down a spiral. Because the one thing that's sort of connecting her to the Join and allowing her to do that is Zosha. And I feel like once Manussos realizes that, he's going to remove her and then, like, cool, now it's just you and I. Let's take these folks out. But what did you guys think about this episode? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on X at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDid@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.